My name is, at this time, Ted Arthur Bartczak. Now, I was born at the Stambo Hospital, and I was baptized at Gastra, and I was baptized with the name of Theodore Arthur Bartczak. But my grandmother wanted me to name Tadasius, and at the baptism, my mother couldn't remember what that name was, so she could remember Theodore. So I ended up, my baptism papers are Theodore Arthur Bartczak, but I had my friend Oni Johnson, a realtor, draw me up legal papers, so everything, all my paperwork up to date now is Ted Arthur Bartczak. My grandmother's name was Catherine Bartczak, and my grandfather's name was Ben Bartczak. I never got to meet the grandparents on my mother's side because they were from Besmer. My mother died when she was like a year and a half old, and dad moved her and her two sisters to Wine River. He proceeded to try to raise them, and he died when she was 7. So the older sister took over and raised, between herself and the two sisters, raised the family. That was it, 3 sisters. And my grandfather, Ben Bartczak, worked in the mine almost all his life, and both of them came over from Poland, went through Ellis Island, and they had a hard life, but they managed to raise a family. In fact, they even adopted a little girl, Stella Bartczak. Her name was, after marriage, was Stella Liquidge. And of course, then there was my dad, and her other sister was Eileen Bartczak. My dad's name was Cashmere Bartczak. He was an iron ore miner for 25 years. He closed the mine, and after that he bounced around with small jobs. He was delivering linens for a while. He was a city manager for the city of Gastra. He worked on construction. He even worked for the state for 1 year, on painting bridges. And what else can I say about him? Well, his love was hunting, trapping, and fishing. That was the big thing. 3 things. And everything that I know now, I learned from him. I guess my dad was my hero. Sure, we had Roy Rogers and the rest, but my dad was my hero. I mean, everything he did, I tried to learn. My mother's name's Bertha Bartczak, and she was known for her housekeeping. I think she had 7 vacuums in the house, and also her cooking. That was the big thing, and she did a good job on both of those. And she was also a receptionist and a technician at the local dental office, where of course our teeth were always well taken care of. I had 2 sisters that I was raised with, and as far as my next sister under me was Gwen, and then the younger one was Pat. Gwen was the one with the brains. She did real good in school. She was a cheerleader. My sister Pat now had to work harder in school, but she got by good. But she spent a lot of time with my dad, believe it or not, on his trap line. The big tradition which carries through right now is every Christmas we had the family get together, grandparents, parents, siblings, everything, and the big thing was pierogies. That was it. My grandmothers made them for years and years on my dad's side, of course. And then my mother took over when she got too old to make them. And then Jackie, my wife, took over after that. As a kid, I was smart. I went through right through high school and everything with all really good grades. And then I went to college at Houghton, and then I found out what the real world was like. When I was a teenager, my jobs were I worked on construction. We were raising houses and putting basements underneath the raised house. That was one job I had. I was a carpenter's helper. I was a delivery boy for a grocery store. I worked pumping gas and changing oil at a service station. My activities were hunting, fishing, and trapping. As far as college was now, I graduated as a civil engineer. Big thing was with the help of my wife. If it wasn't for her, I would have never made it. My wife Jackie, I met her first of all, two different times giving her a ride. One was from Iron Mountain to Crystal Falls home after some kind of a ball game, and another time just in Crystal Falls. One day I was up there with some of my friends, and we had taken girls out, and we brought them home, and went in the cabin with them, and everybody was getting ready to leave, and I noticed a door that just in the other room. So I went over there and I opened the door and I walked in and I see nobody was in the bottom bunk, but there was somebody sleeping in the top bunk. So I stood on the bottom bunk and shook the person on the top bunk. It just happened to be Jackie. So we started talking, and of course she wanted to get rid of me because they had a policy there, no boys in the bedrooms. Well, that didn't make no difference to me. But so I sweet talked her for a long time, and finally got a kiss from her, and then that was enough to go home with. We got married in 1960 at the church in Crystal Falls. We had a reception at my dad's garage. It was finished inside, and so everybody was over there, and one of our good friends, Paulie Stunkina, had snuck into my car and put a bottle of champagne under the seat for us. I had no idea it was there. Well, about 2 years later, we found out that the bottle was there. But of course, it wasn't there any length of time because our best man and maid of honor went for a ride somewhere, and they, for some reason, they found the bottle, and that was the end of the bottle of champagne. How would I describe her? She's a outgoing person, good personality. We used to have so much fun together because with the job I had, I always had a crew I was working with, and we had a camp at that time. Living in Escanaba, and the camp was up here, so we had almost every weekend we had a party at the camp with the people I work with and the local people here, and Jackie, she always was at the head of the thing. Well, I mean, the camp was like 20 feet square, and I remember parties where we had 20 people in there. The key to a good marriage is give and take. It's, they say it's 50-50, the proposition, but that's not right. A good marriage is like 51-49, because if it's 50-50, that's like a ship with no captain. It goes around and round, it never goes anyplace. But a marriage, if you can keep it 51-49, it goes in a direction all the time. It doesn't always stay with one, the husband or the wife. So some days it's the husband that gets the 51, and then another days the wife's got the 51%. I retired in 1995, and retired, we had this new house put up here that year. And then I was in the Lions Club in Wells, part of Escanaba. I had put in, I think, 15 years there. And then when I came up to Rock here, when we moved up in 1995, I had 10 years here, so I had 25 years in the Lions Club. I enjoyed that. the happiest moment or time of my life was retirement. You know, I had 33 years with Michigan Department of Transportation on the road, uh, uh, moving a lot. It was a good job in that respect, but if I had to do over, I would have did something different to where I wouldn't have had to be away from home so much. The saddest moments of my life, was losing my sister Gwen and my mother and dad. That was the saddest ones. The proudest time of my life was getting married because uh, that changed my life. Oh, future family, it would be really try hard to behave yourself, to stay out of trouble, because we've had too many things in the past that have jumped up and somebody wasn't behaving and had to pay the penalty, you know. So that would be the biggest advice I could have.